Now that we know the different types of agreements or contracts, we kind of need to know how they are determined, how the wages and conditions in them are determined. So we know that there's three types of contracts, but before we begin those, or those can be made, the Fair Work Commission sets the minimum wage every year and the 10 national employment standards, and they must apply to every agreement or contract as a bare minimum. And then we learned that there's an agreement, say for an entire industry, in this case mining. There's an agreement that will cover every worker in the mining industry as a bare minimum of conditions, which we call the safety net. And that is called an award, or a modern award. But then an employer, so in this case BHP, might go, we want our own contract for our own workers because they do different work than everyone else and they're better than everyone else. So we want an agreement just for them. And that is called an enterprise agreement or a collective agreement. We also have, and that must leave workers better off overall or pass the Boo test. So it's got to be better off than what they would have got on the award. Otherwise, there's no point to it. We also have an individual contract. Maybe we've got one superstar employee, so we just give them their own contract, and that's obviously called an individual contract. And again, that must leave the worker better off overall. So they're the different types of contracts that we've looked at: awards, enterprise agreements, and individual contracts. Remember, your textbook might say modern award, same thing, or it might say collective agreement, same thing. Now, what we want to know is that, first of all, this contract here for an award is for everyone in the industry, but then I take out just my employees, that would be an enterprise agreement, or I just have for one employee, that's an individual contract. So there are three types of agreements or contracts. But what we want to know now is, well, how do these actually get sort of negotiated and determined? So we want to answer the following questions. Who are the parties involved in making each of these contracts? Who do they apply to? What's the process for making them? What's the content of them? What's in them? What's the role of the trade unions? And what's the duration? How long does each one last? So what we'll do in the next few videos is we'll look at that, answer these specific questions for awards, and then in the next video, enterprise agreements, and then finally we'll look at all these things for an individual contract.